I am so excited today to be chatting to the fabulous Ruby Wax. Now, everyone knows Ruby, and everybody who knows her loves her, because what is not to love? She is hilarious, delightfully provocative. She has written some of our most utterly beloved TV shows, including the incredible and raucously funny Absolutely Fabulous. And as well as being a TV writer, her credits include, but are not limited to, stand-up comedian, performer, and best-selling author. She may have been born in the US, but ever since she moved to the UK to join the Royal Shakespeare Company, I did not know that, Ruby, in 1978, we've pretty much adopted her. Since then, she's rarely been off our stage or our screen, working with comedy titans like Dawn French, Jennifer Saunders, and Tracy Ullman, or interviewing the likes of Imelda Marcos, O.J. Simpson, and Donald Trump for her incredibly funny and popular BBC chat show, Ruby Wax Meets. In 2013, she gained a master's degree in Mindfulness-based Cognitive Therapy from Oxford University, and she was awarded an OBE in 2015 for her services to mental health. Next came her book, A Mindfulness Guide for the Frazzled, and now her latest work entitled How to Be Human. Hello, Ruby.
Hi. I was starting to get bored.
I cut it short. Now, it's impossible to start one of these or any of these conversations without asking, what have you been doing over the last few weeks? And tell us, how does Ruby Wax do lockdown?
Well, the thing that keeps me going is that I have something called Frazzled Cafés. I don't know if any of you know that.
Tell us about them.
Well, I opened them a few years ago through Marks and Spencer's, where groups of 12 people would meet free in the cafes, and free coffee and cookies, and there would be a facilitator, and then they would meet regularly every 2 weeks. And because I always wanted a kind of a small group where you could speak human to each other, you wouldn't have to wear that mask. That was my dream, so I created it, and it was up and down the country, and some of the groups were together maybe 3 years. Anyway, obviously with this happening, we've had to put it on Zoom, and it really works well. So I run one a day for 100 people, and we're going to do smaller groups again. So we're looking for hosts that would run groups of 12. That'll be ongoing. So come on, and you can go on my 100 person.
Your version. Well, I'm in, and I'm sure lots of the rest of the Albright community who are all around the UK would be. What's the chat in Frazzled Cafes online? Give us the sort of range of things.
Well, it's it's a little like AA, which I always wanted to be part of. But so there is a host, but then you leave it to them, and people put up their hands, and they speak so from the under the radar that the relief of hearing people going, oh my God, I feel that way too, is extraordinary. Yeah. I take notes because these people, they're you and I. They're articulating it. And then then we put them in breakout rooms where there's 5 or 6, and they get to talk, and people are so relieved. So, it's funny, the people with the mental illness are the ones surviving the best. Because we're used to it. We're used to not, being able to move, and we're used to uncertainty. And a couple of agoraphobics have said, "You see, we were right." Not supposed to leave you out. But the ones that are very successful and have kids and have to work, uncertainty is raining down on them, and we were never prepared for this. No. So they're the ones that really don't know what to do. But I have regulars on my meetings, and for me too, they say thanks, and I go, well, thank you, because to speak, human to human is such a relief. I wish we had it before. Well, we did have it before, but you'd have to go to a cafe.
You have to leave.
You can be anywhere.
So as someone who has been very vocal about how normal life or pre-COVID life can be overwhelming, do you think that there are any positives to come out of this situation? Is it around a simpler approach to what matters? Is it around communicating digitally? Reflect on that a little bit.
The good news?
Yeah, the good news. The
good news is, I remember meeting people in public and not noticing they were there. So, we were once together a few weeks ago, but now online, who knew that tech would be our salvation? Is that people are really listening to each other, and we're looking in each other's eyes. And so there's a sense of community that I didn't have before, and I really hope it lasts. Because now I was thinking before, it's, originally humans would sit around the fire, and that's how we would bond, and that's made us healthy. after a day of hunting, everything would calm down. We have no fire anymore. But now, well, with big group, you have that moment where everybody's really, we're not going anywhere and we're not shopping for anything. So finally we can focus on each other. And that's really good for our health. Unfortunately, it's in the middle of a pandemic.
Talk about humor in the darkness. So as a notoriously funny person, what has made you laugh over the last weeks?
Oh shit, Ed said something really funny. Some of the videos I get sent are hilarious. I mean, I could hold them up, but they're really funny. And
Show us.
Well, it'll take a while.
Well, whilst we're talking, you can see.
No, but they're brilliant ones. I mean, I don't know if they'll be lost in translation. But when you get pictures of Trump and he's wearing little pigtails and he's in full makeup, or you have to see it. You get them too.
You get them too.
Let's see. Wait a minute. Hold it. Just everybody talk amongst yourselves. Oh yeah, I told Ed to tell somebody to get chicken legs, right? So he sent out the thing saying, don't bother going to Waitrose, go to the butcher and get the chicken legs. Okay, and then come back. But he sent it to the head of ITV. He was supposed to go to a person who's delivering food. And the guy said, yep, on my bike, gov. So that, yeah, long email.
Now, your 2018 book, How to Be Human.
Oh, wait, sorry, one other thing. My daughters are doing on Friday night an alternative Eurovision Song Contest.
Oh, really?
Going live, but they're, because they're comedians called Siblings, so their entry is hilarious. So if you're watching,
can we see it? Where will we see it?
I think you go online, just look at it. It's the alternative Eurovision Song Contest. But they're called Siblings, so you can look them
up. Now, your book in 2018, How to Be Human, set out to answer life's big questions about what makes us human and how our minds work. Tell us about that and what you discovered when you were working on it.
Are you talking about the book before this one or the one that was?
We'll do the one before this one first, and then we'll segue into the latest.
Okay. How to Be Human is about why we are this. Why do we choose the partners we choose? How come thoughts are so mean? Did natural selection make some screw ups? Shouldn't we be, as humans, the top of the food chain? And it's stuff I was always curious about. So, and I used what I learned at Oxford, but except I whipped it up with comedy. And then at the end of each chapter, I had a neuroscientist and a monk have the conversation with me, and we became best friends. And the monk lives upstairs. He's not here now. Because I adore him in my house.
You moved him in?
I met him at a conference. He's like the real face of mindfulness. He does Google and he works at the UN, and he's hilarious. And he's English, and his mom is a famous comedian. And I always make a joke that I asked him to move in because he matches my sofa.
And
we did tours together.
Okay.
We did tours of How to Be Human, and it answered the questions, except it's that I wanted to know. Every chapter. So there's relationships, there's thoughts, there's where emotions come from, how do we make them, all that stuff. So that was How to Be Human.
Tell us about the latest book.
So this came out, How Do You Want Me, last week, and it's been republished. I wrote it 18 years ago. It's an autobiography, but it came out, I think, 2 weeks ago. And Carrie Fisher was my editor, and she said, this is as good as you can get. She said, your family is almost as weird as mine. So those are the reviews on this baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dark.
How is it for it to be back out again?
What?
How is it to reconnect with the book again?
Well, it's weird because I'm no longer this person. I don't even look like her. This is me at camp when I was happy at Camp Agawak. And then this is my first nervous breakdown. You can see what happened. It's unbelievable. My dad was a sausage casing guy and made the outside of hot dogs. And this is how he'd travel in the Wiener wagon. He'd come home in that. So that's why I had a lot of friends. So that's come out now. And then I have another book coming out in September. And that's the one I've been working on for 2 years.
So tell us about the next book.
So that's called And Now for the Good News.
Yeah. ...
How to the future with love. So timely or what?
Very timely.
So I went around the world and I went to, hunt down where were the green shoots growing, that if we paid attention and we put our focus on that it would grow into maybe something really hopeful and positive, because there's so much, we're just rained down by bad news. And now we're in the tsunami of bad news. So it was, in communities, where are they forming really interesting ones, how they redecorating cities. And it's always about bringing community together. And it's not alternative. Do you know what I mean? They're using a lot of these ideas already, but I needed to root them out. Where are they teaching kids how to be more emotionally with it, and how to regulate their own stress hormones? So that's in Finland a little bit. Then I went to China. Then I went to tech, to find out what tech's doing to help the human race, like Zoom. Yeah. And then I did business. There's businesses that we're forming based on books called Conscious Capitalism and Firms of Endearment. And so I started working at some of these, and it's about teamwork rather than command and control. And they're really responsible ecologically and, environmentally. So it's the next generation. We're already getting the wheels in motion. And I wanted to focus on that so that I'd feel better. And a lot of these things I'm going to take up when this is over. I want to move to one of these communities or rent places there because they're sensational.
Did you feel better? What makes you feel better? Did it make you feel better? Right.
Yeah, because while everybody else was running around about Brexit, I got to go work at a Patagonia sportswear shop, which is for 40 years walking the talk. They give 10% back to the community and they make a lot of money. And they work all over the world, environmentally helping farmers. Their catchphrase is, please don't buy any more of our clothes. So when you wear them out, you send them back and they fix them. Yeah. And they still make a lot of money. So yeah. That made me happy.
At Albright, we're all about supporting smart-minded, ambitious, driven women. And you're so prolific, having turned your hand to writing, comedy, acting, activism. What is it? What keeps you going? We always ask this of people, but where does the drive and the motivation come from?
I don't know. I know I had some motivation to leave my home because my parents were so nuts. And I say that in a loving way. So I think that motivated me out of Chicago. Even though they escaped from Europe, I went back in. And then I got fired from my job after 25 years on the BBC. Not fired, but squidged out. And then I needed to reinvent. So I went back to psychology, which was my first love.
Yes. And how was that, going to study?
Well, I always was interested in the brain, but when I went to Berkeley, you could only study a dead brain. So now suddenly you could study how people think. So it was perfect timing. And then I took my dissertation at Oxford and I made it into a show. And I got my master's based on the show. And then I started putting comedy with it. And that became books and shows. And Ed said, my husband, I always knew you'd put the two together, which is comedy and science. And so now I hope they won't take that away because there are not that many people doing it. And now I wanted to reinvent again. So I wrote that book that comes out in September to give me ideas. Where's the green shoots? Who's doing the interesting stuff? It's all about me. If it interests me, then I write about it.
Now we've got some questions. I'm going to have to put my glasses on because these questions are a bit too great.
I don't wear glasses.
Okay. Hi, Ruby. Thanks for punctuating my day with such joy. How can we get involved in Frazzled Cafes?
Oh, thank you. Well, you just go on frazzledcafe.org and sign up. So we have 100 people a day. And then if you like it and you'd like to be a host, we do a little training, and then you'll have groups of 12 at your convenience that you can host.
Okay.
So come on.
That one. Right. Question from Jacqueline. She says, Ruby, it's Mental Health Awareness Week next week. What are you doing business-wise? And more importantly, what are you doing for yourself? Lovely to virtually see you. Thanks and a kiss. So give us the business, and then just talk about you, because it is all about you, as you said, but you and mental health awareness, but in general.
Well, I don't know what more I can do than do Frazzled, but they thank me, but I'm thanking them, because I get the oxytocin, I get their hormone that bonds people. So off the screen. So it's my food. Well, so why would next week be different than any other week?
Yeah.
I'll do that. And then I do mindfulness, because that's what I studied at Oxford. And that really, it doesn't veg you out, but it does help you deal with those negative killer thoughts.
How do you do it? What do you do, and when do you do it? Just give us this. We're all about the practical here. What do you do?
Well, I always like the science of it. I mean, you can't say it in a sentence, but basically, like you go to a gym and get a sit up, and by going up and down, it makes a six pack. So with mindfulness, because I got a privilege to study the brain, when you're gabbling up here, it's using one area of the brain. When you're sending your focus to a bodily sense, a sense, touch, sound, taste, it's using another part of the brain. So in other words, you're watching the gabbling, you focus, let's say, on tracking your breathing. The thoughts come, they're supposed to, you bring it back just for a minute or two a day. It buffs up that part of the brain that is activated when you're sensing something. So when the real crap comes in, the thoughts still come in, but they're more like your relationship is differently. They don't drag you into madness. You just go, oh yeah, that's the I'm not good enough tape, and there's the everybody thinks I'm. You just have a different relationship with them, but you have to practice it. And
we have a question on that, but if someone wants to start, because for us, mindfulness, mental health, and in particular at the moment, women's mental health, because we have one dog in the fight, which is women, right? And one of the things that we're seeing from our community at the moment is people struggling in different ways, in real ways, to do with jobs and money, and a child playing the saxophone, and how do we do it all, but also through the bigger lens of mental health. So if someone wants to start, and if they're trying to use this time, if they possibly can, to carve out some time for themselves to start thinking about mindfulness and how to turn off the tape or control the tape, what should they do?
Well, my professor was called Mark Williams, and it doesn't get any better than that. It's very clear. He makes the science easy if you're interested in that, and he does some tapes, Mark Williams. And then John Kabat-Zinn was the founder of the whole thing, and he worked with 40 years ago people in chronic pain. He was a molecular biologist, and he refined this. He stole from a little bit from the Buddhists, but so did Freud, and just made it palatable for a Western mind. So you could read John Kabat-Zinn. You could read my book called Frazzled, A Mindfulness Guide, which was Mark Williams said he approved it, because you have to have the real big boys. Otherwise, everything becomes a bastardized version of things. I hate that when suddenly you're doing mindfulness for drawing. You can do it, but how come everything that is really kosher suddenly, becomes idiotic because there's money in it? So I go to the real deals.
Okay. That's where to find the kosher stuff, ladies.
Yep.
I read that you once gave a speech saying you thought there should be a course to teach the art of failing. What's your own relationship with failure, and what have you learned from it?
Well, I only like people who are failures now, or at least admit it, because I did used to feel alone. And that's another frazzled thing, is that, we love people because of their flaws. And part of it was always feeling alone. And when I can find people that also have this, then I'm safe. So it's something I look for in other people.
You've spoken and indeed today about your experience with depression in the past. Why did you become, or what was the trigger for becoming so passionate about not suffering in silence and sharing what you had discovered? What changed that journey?
Yeah. Well, I say it in the beginning of Frazzled and my shows, is that Comic Relief put a poster of me up in tube stations that said 1 in 4 people have mental illness, 1 in 5 people have dandruff, I have both, without asking me. So I thought I don't want anybody to know I have depression. So I thought I'm going to write a show and I'm going to pretend that's my publicity poster. And so I wrote a show and a book, and then it started to snowball because I thought, oh, I'm never going to work again if people find out such is the stigma. But who knew that I'd make another career? But I don't endlessly talk about depression. It's just launched it.
Yeah.
It launched it. You can't go on and on about your problems.
A question from Nikki. What's your top tip for negative self-talk?
Well, there's no top tip. You have to practice something. I mean, it could be yoga, it could be Pilates, it could be Tai Chi, it could be martial arts, but it's a muscle. So you can't pull a ripcord, flying out of the plane unless you practice flying out of the plane.
Yeah. Do you feel like we fully removed the taboo around mental health yet?
I don't know who we are.
I suppose let's take we in the UK as a society.
How do I know? But now after this, yeah, if you think there's no mental illness, then you think there's no virus either.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
There's no argument.
Yeah. We were talking about this on another Zoom that we did last week. Sometimes people don't have the vocabulary to know what to say to people who are struggling with mental health challenges or depression. And often they're very well-meaning, but they feel like they're going to say the wrong thing. And in a British way, sometimes they don't say anything at all. I think one of the things that we have definitely seen, and I'm sure you've seen it in Frazzled during this time, is the point you made earlier about people talking and opening up. And are there any things that we should think about when we're thinking about how to discuss this, how to support, what to say, what not to say? Because I think that can sometimes hold people back.
Yeah, really. It's sometimes it's worse for the caretaker.
Right.
Than the person suffering, because it's a mystery to you.
Yeah.
I don't, people always ask that question. I think you just love them and you say, not how are you or perk up. That was a good one because you never thought of that. But if somebody does have depression, you say, how's the depression today? You acknowledge they really have something, not some fantasy. So tell me about the bipolar, whatever, because part of the reason I love being with other depressives is we can talk about it for a long time. So if you believe it really exists, and you let them talk about it. But if they don't want help, you can't drag somebody by the ankles. You could suggest that medication is the only way to deal with certain mental, it's like saying if you have diabetes, don't take the insulin.
Yeah.
You can suggest it once, but after a while, it's like saying to somebody, you have to go to AA. If they refuse, it's not going to work. But just, be with them. So just by being present is enough for some people.
I'm just going to read some of the comments so that you can hear them. Alicia is saying, thank you so much for sharing. Fail is the first attempt at learning. And from Sarah, thanks Ruby for being such a source of inspiration to me. Laughter has always helped me in the darkest times, and I wondered what makes you laugh at the moment in these strange and uncertain times. I guess we've done that a bit with Ed's apps to ITV. But what should we watch or read or all of that? Anything from the Ruby playbook?
Well, my reward at the end of the day is my addiction.
Yeah.
So either order something online that you'll never need, like today it was earplugs, and sometimes it's rubber stretchy things. I don't,
stretch,
like for Pilates that I won't be doing.
Yeah, I've got those,
a lot of those. And so I have to indulge myself. But then at night, I'm addicted to Netflix. So I'm on a loop.
Watching.
Oh my God. Babylon Berlin is on American Netflix, but you can get it. And then Ozark. And at the end, I think part of my life is missing. I mean, that's my drug.
Are you binging or are you disciplined?
No, I binge.
Yes.
I binge, but then luckily I frazzled. So I have to, get up.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And I do mindfulness. So there's two things.
Okay. And some great advice, wonderfully honest and great insights. Thank you, Ruby. You're an inspiration from Fiona. Now, I feel like I can't let you go without asking about the other bit of you and some of your famous interviews and interviewees on Ruby Maps weeks, especially Donald Trump. Like, I feel we should. Who would give us the what and the wherefore, and maybe some of the other standouts, but give us a minute on him.
Yeah, well, it was one of my worst interviews, if you'd like to look at it. It's because he scared me. I was on his plane at 33,000 feet in his private jet, and he reminded me of my dad. So I wasn't making a lot of sense, and I get passive aggressive. But he threw me his first card, which was that he wanted to be the next president of the United States. So I started laughing. So he said, land the plane, I want her off. So they landed the plane. And now my crew and I were put down in Arkansas, and the whole show is us looking for Donald again. And then we did find him, but you have to watch what happened. But he had his hair. It wasn't the roadkill. It was like a Mr. Whippy back then, because my girlfriend was the makeup artist.
Okay.
And she had to wind it a lot.
Wind it around.
It's really unpleasant. It's not your imagination. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a good one. And then O.J. Simpson tried to stab me with a banana. Yeah, that was at about 4 a.m, because I used to interview people not for 10 minutes, but for about a week. And then we'd cut it down. Yeah. So, he was a week. I spent a long time with O.J., and then Imelda Marcos sat 8 days with her. Sometimes they'd say, we'll only give you 10 minutes, but you can convince people to do things if you're funny. And Carrie Fisher became my best friend because I interviewed her 35 years ago. So I got some good, people out here. Yeah.
Who didn't you get that you would want, or if you were doing it now, who would you want?
Oh God, I don't know. I'd like to have met Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have liked to have met him. Criminal wise?
Yeah, go on. Give us someone.
I'd like to interview Putin. Putin, I would have. Yeah. That would be interesting.
A week with him, that would have been quite something.
Yeah.
Maybe tricky
Staying alive.
Right, Ruby, thank you so much. Everybody in comments is saying how inspirational, how they've always loved your honest, down-to-earth approach to life, and so have we. We so appreciate you giving us half an hour. We will all check out Frazzled for sure. Anything else that we can do to help. Thank you so much for being part of the Albright community today, and good luck with Chicken Leg. And
get this book, and in September, the other one.
We got it. All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye.